Cool. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, about to be on YouTube. G'day to anyone watching. Come on, YouTube. There we go. Let's get started. G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who will bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. I'm your host Heff, and back into the studio for the first time since round 4, I think it was.
Easter.
Former co-host, now very special guest, Kaes. How are you, mate?
Not bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. How's the Keeper League team coming along?
Let's have a look. I'm sitting in 5th spot.
You're just above me, which is pretty annoying.
It's actually a very tight comp this year now.
It is, because I think I'm in 6th and I think I'm 2 wins off top. Yep. I think that's right.
We've got 2 teams on 8, 3 teams on 7. You're on 6.
I know.
Then there's 3 teams on 5 right up your tail.
I'm on 6 with the second highest points for in the comp.
Yeah, my team's been shit ass. My defense is winning me games, which is great.
Stevie Fizz said on Draft Doctors today that in fantasy, generally, like, you have those seasons where you score really well but just can't win games, but the universe it just tends to, like, the fantasy kind of world just seems to even out in the long run.
Yeah.
But he also said this thing about some pricks just seem to get luckier than others.
Totally.
I think that's very true for our league, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I think it was last year where I was. I'm going to guess here, but I was the leading point scorer by quite a while.
Yeah.
And you don't win. It's just,
exactly.
that's just how it goes.
The year I won the flag, I was the second highest point scorer, but the guy who won it was miles ahead of me in terms of points scored.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Over the course of the season, though, being high in points and low in the ladder absolutely sucks. But anyways, I'm sensing you're coming off a bit of a long run up tonight. I just noticed a tweet that you put out before. A hypothetical, no. But you're happy tonight or what?
I'm disenchanted with the game, Heff.
Oh, yeah? Oh, what's new?
Nothing. Just another week in the life of me. No, I just don't get it, man. Like, those tackles that are getting a week for now are just, like, if you want to pay holding the ball and a free kick just to kind of start the education process, go for it. But, like, if Luke Parker or Rory Laird or something like that is getting a tackle for that, where they're not even in control of the momentum. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I can't remember who tackled Tom Hickey, but, like, how are you going to stop a, like, 120 kilo, 200 centimetre guy if he's already on the fall? Like, you've got no chance. And, like, they weren't, you remember, like, when we play footy or, amateur footy, the ones I hated the most was when the ball was kind of, like, dead. You were just holding on to it and then some guy would just come in and just slam you anyway. Yeah. Like, that's the shit you need to stamp out. Not the stuff where there's a bit of momentum behind it or there's no real malice in it.
Like, looking at Laird's, like, I just don't know what else he can do. Like, I'm fully on board. An actual sling tackle where arms are pinned and, like, in situations where you just need to, like, drop to your knees and roll them on top of you so you don't hurt them type thing, like, is what you need to do. But in Laird's situation, he wasn't actually... Didn't look like he was intending. It's kind of like Neil rolled at the same time. Plus Pedler came in and put a bit of shoulder on. It's like, what do you do?
Like, I reckon even Parker in a way almost tried to break the fall. It's just that, it was just that last bit where you can't control, like 90 kilos of man. But
I know. I think it's going to be debated like week in, week out on every footy show and every footy podcast.
We'll leave it to them. But fuck, there's not going to be too many people left for the Brownlow if like you're getting suspended every week.
Yeah, don't worry. Zach Butters is still eligible, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, good.
And I think Ken's still eligible for Coach of the Year. So
he definitely is.
It's all happening down at the Power.
It is. Well, anyway, before we get into the show, we'll talk about the DPPs that have come out. Most of them were really irrelevant. Last time the DPPs came out, you were pretty dirty on them, but on the chat last night, you were pretty happy about this round.
Look, Jack McRae getting forward status probably helps my side a bit, considering my forwards are pretty scummy. But
you're asking us if you're now flag favourite with Jack McRae getting forward status.
Well, if Pugs was saying that Max Gorn was like 0.1% off, which would have made me amazingly good because I would have had Gorn and McRae in my forward line. But
and bringing the awesome Bailey Williams onto the field,
number one ruckman Bailey Williams.
We'll talk about him later in the show. Don't worry.
But I don't know. I'm even a bit. It's good that McRae gets forward. Like if he didn't get it, it wouldn't have upset me too much. I think most of these ones are pretty fair.
Yeah, we'll talk about the percentages and stuff like that maybe a bit more later on. But like Some people hate it. Some people love it. Like, I think when you're deciding like the positions at the start of the year on these metrics, like I looked at the top 20 forwards last night. 3 of them are genuine forwards.
Yeah.
So you've already got all these guys that aren't forwards anyway.
Yep.
Like, why not throw in McRae just to even the ledger? You know, like just put him in. Like it already doesn't make sense that we've got these guys that aren't playing that position anyway.
Like
you might as well even
Dunkley,
it up. Yeah. Taranto, like all of them. Like, you might as well just even it up and put someone like McRae in if he's starting there as well. Like, because it's the same metric as those guys were decided on their forward status, that being 35% in their starting position. Yeah. But anyway, most of them are irrelevant anyway from all the chatter. The only ones are really the ones that added something other than mid. And those guys were really Matthew Kennedy got defender status. Dylan Williams got forward status, which just gives you a bit of flexibility. Darcy Burn-Jones got forward status too, which gives you that forward flexibility between forward and back.
Yep.
Jack McRae, the big one, getting forward status, which is handy. Is he likely to keep it next year? Who knows? If he keeps going like this, maybe. But yeah, interesting to think about.
It is.
But yeah, if you miss them, they're the DPPs, the only ones that we found relevant. All right, we'll get stuck into the show. First, I just want to mention that this show is brought to you by Game Day Squad. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy using Game Day Squad. If you haven't played it before, you open digital packs to get cards, and that's what you make your team with instead of selecting players from a player pool. And different cards have different scoring power and multipliers, and that's how you kind of get your fantasy score. And you get free cards each week just for logging in. So create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy for free with Game Day Squad. Head to gamedaysquad.com.au to check that one out. How's your team been going in Game Day Squad?
I think I'm 30th overall. I had the worst week of my career. I think this week I was 134th or something scummy.
134. I reckon I was down there as well, to be honest.
I actually did. Like, when you just go, I thought my team might be around the mark this week. Yeah. It was just like 400 points off. So
my issue was I love Jack Steele too much, and I made him my gold captain this week, and only scored the 75 in Classic, and I don't know what that was in Game Day Squad. But
the last couple of weeks, I've had a few guys injured, like Took and a couple others. So I've been playing around with a few things, and my 2 gambles the last week haven't paid off. I put a gold Jack Viney on the field because I thought, wet conditions, lots of cuddles. Nah, he went shit. And then I put John Noble on the field with a silver because he's actually been scoring pretty well. Like, he's been a 90 average kind of defender. So I was like, good. I think he can bump up to a 110. I think he got like a 60 or a 70. So the Oracle's tried to be a little bit too smart, and he's been found out the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm slipping backwards, so I really need to do something. It all comes down to captains, like all gold players that I put on the field. I just haven't nailed one in weeks now. So I think I put Tim English last week, and then I put Jack Steele this week. I just can't get it, but it's always around the mark, but yeah, not quite. Anyways, we'll get stuck into the show. We'll get into the breakout tracking segment where we talk about the most relevant names of the week. We'll just go in game order here, but first one I want to talk about. We made him too good for the podcast early on, but he's stunk it up for the last few weeks, so I'm bringing him back. But I just want to talk about Nick Blakey again. Scored 114 points. I think what's been interesting with him since about round 4, I think it was, he's kind of been playing like a taller key defender role with just everyone, the McCartan just going out for a bit and then Rampy going out and that sort of stuff. So yeah, played that key position role for a few weeks. He had a good game this week on the intercept marks, and he's got Fox in there helping him out. Cunningham was in there this week. Like, a few people kind of playing similar roles. Melican too, playing similar roles. Rampy comes back next week, I think, as well. So I think it's time to get back on board the Lizard. He was very good on the weekend.
Awesome.
Your boy Kane Corn said he's worth $900,000 a year.
Whew, that's a lot. Yeah, I love him, but I don't know if he's worth that much.
But yeah, he played a hell of a game on Friday night. We've always been big fans of Liz.
I thought I'd just mention that his scoring might come back over the next few weeks if we're lucky. So just keep an eye on that one. Might be a buy low, or someone might be thinking they're selling high this week. But anyway, Will Hayward, 106 points. I reckon that's just a tip of the cap, don't you?
Correct.
Yep. Gone to Justin McInerney, 102 points. He's been okay since getting dropped. I think he has good on return, couple 50s, back with 100. Getting forward, kicked a couple goals as well.
He was very impressive on Friday night. Yeah, I was kind of like, man, our boy's back.
Just with Sydney and how they're travelling, I think it's a bit different when they get a win. You know what I mean? So just one to monitor if he comes good again. The next one, I think, is a bit more of a goer, and this is moving on to Carlton now. I think Matthew Cottrell could be a goer over the next few weeks. He's a bit of a watch for mine. Carlton always seem to be like lacking that other wing. They got Akers in for a reason. They needed some wingers, and so they got Akers to play with the other one. And they've been playing Hollands, who's probably deserved maybe to probably get dropped a bit sooner. I know he's got injured now, but it's just that purely their outside players, they just don't have any. Matthew Cottrell's come in and he plays a decent outside game. He's listed as a forward in fantasy as well. I know. I said this. I think they're screaming out for another winger, and I reckon he could be the guy who kind of fits it with Hollands out. So, what are your thoughts on Cottrell?
I was kind of impressed by how he played on Friday night. He's not a guy I necessarily love. I don't know. There's a lot of conjecture around, who's best 22 and all that kind of shit at Carlton. I don't know, is he like a real cream of the crop, lock-in best 22 guy? That's my only issue there, that I think he's a bit of a risky play if you were looking to, add
I think
off
he's more of one of those
wire.
like 3 to 4 week type plays. If he's on your waiver wire and you need a forward, he could be one to pick up. Yeah, exactly. So just keep an eye on him. If he does it again, might be worth turning a few heads towards. Brody Kemp, 79 points. He was okay in defence. That was just his second best score of the season. Newman did go down with concussion and continue that next week. So Brody Kemp might see a bump next week. But moving on to the next game, the Hawthorn game, a guy I've been riding for weeks. Who's
your
now
boy.
Officially 2G4P.
Is he officially your boy?
Oh, yeah, he is. I picked him up. This is Connor Nash we're talking about. Picked him up in our draft really late as I needed one more midfielder, and he was the only one likely, I thought, to get a game each week. Expecting 60s, 50s, maybe that sort of stuff. No oracleness to it. I wasn't predicting a good fantasy score. Just needed a warm body. But geez, Connor Nash has come on.
Didn't he get dropped 1 week as well?
Don't know about that.
He's missed a game, definitely.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was dropped or maybe they didn't need the tagger that week when he was doing the tagging stuff.
No, he's played 11 games.
Yeah. I think you might be getting mixed up with the other tagger that they had. What was his
Finn
name?
McGuinness.
Yeah, Finn McGuinness. He got dropped and he isn't playing now, so maybe that was it. But 98 points on the weekend. We mentioned this last week. He hasn't had under 25 disposals since round 4. It's too good for the podcast due to 4 80-plus scores in a row. That's 97, 81, 130, and 98. I've been spruiking on the Wave Wire podcast. Pick him up. So hopefully people have done it because, he's actually just being used as a proper midfielder now.
Yeah, he is. I watched that game live at Gather Round.
Oh, yeah.
And he's actually really big.
He's huge. 197.
He's actually massive. He, I know he has kind of pinch hit ruck occasionally, and there's a reason. He's a big unit.
Yeah. But he's kind of not too bad with the ball in hand. He breaks
He's got
lines.
that weird Irish kick, how they kind of drop it on the side and stuff like that, which sometimes goes amiss. But he's always in and under. He's one of those guys that you kind of love because he always has a crack.
And he works so hard.
Yeah.
He'll work to get that next handball type thing.
Totally.
To get the extra touch. So, Connor Nash, and he can tackle too. He's the man. 2G4P. I'm going to be sad we can't talk about him anymore. And more Hawthorn players. Lockie Bramble, 81 points. He's always been a favourite of yours.
He has been. He's in my team, actually.
Yeah, I thought so.
But, he's always been on the borderline of their best 22, and I don't know, they kind of play a bit of favourites, I think, of Hawthorn, and he's kind of snuck his way back into the side. But, he's had a couple, lower games. I'm assuming they're sub games with 27 and 37% TOG. But, he's had a 96, an 81, a 90, a 77. When he's playing full games, he's a genuine, ball magnet.
Yeah, no, he's a good player. He's always been a decent fantasy shout as well. So good to see him just getting a game, I think.
Yeah.
I think Seamus Mitchell copped a knock to the knee. So
he did.
That might be okay for him as well. We don't want people to get injured, obviously, but could spell some more minutes for him or just some more, just stepping up the kind of pecking order a bit more. No St Kilda players to talk about. They were garbage. So we'll move on to the next game. Melbourne, who'd they play? Wally Europe, wasn't it?
They played Fremantle.
Yes, that's right. Tom Sparrow is the first one I want to talk about. 97 points. Clayton Oliver's out, we'll flag that, but he was the most used at the CBAs in his absence, and we saw Gus Brayshaw go out up to a wing. But yeah, just good to see Tom Sparrow get some opportunities. I feel like we talk about every 3 or 4 weeks because we just know what he's capable of.
Yep.
Just needs to get that role and that opportunity. When he gets it in situations like this, he's pretty good.
If he was at a lesser side, he'd be close to 100 average.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Clayton Oliver actually trained with the main group today and did a full training session. So
the guy's an absolute machine.
Yeah, so he might even be back this week and kind of push Tom Sparrow back out. So monitor the news, but don't get too excited if you're a Tom Sparrow owner. Just get excited when he gets traded at the end of the year. I think that's the
Correct.
the thing that we're going to be waiting for. On to some Wally Europe players. Wally Europe. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
I can't.
I think Sir Doug Nichols' round's over, so we can go back now. But it's a bit confusing.
Did you watch the Port game?
Yeah, it was. They just kept mispronouncing the.
But Bucks kept saying Port.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yardapulti.
Yardapulti.
Yeah.
It's just you would have said that 10 times. I was like, it's all right, man.
Yeah, we know who you're talking about. Like, yeah,
Don't
but
kid
it
yourself.
is. Don't get us wrong. It is great to have the names for the week and stuff like that. But yeah, like I think people are worrying about it too much if they get it wrong or whatever. But anyway, Luke Jackson, 104 points. He's pretty much 2G4P. 3 out of his last 4 games have been hundreds. I think there's just been one that's dropped down. And with Darcy going out now for a few weeks, they reckon, he's going to be huge. It's just that he's going to buy. They're going to buy next week, so won't be able to reap the rewards straight away. But Luke
I'm
Jackson,
very excited about the next few weeks.
well, the issue is we play buys, Kaes. We don't play through the buys.
That's right. Fuck.
So
Now I'm not as excited anymore.
You're going to have Darcy back. So for backstory, I guess, Kaes is the Luke Jackson owner.
I'm a Luke Jackson owner.
Held him for quite a while now, since the first season.
Patience.
And finally kind of going to get that few weeks where he's going to go bananas and you're not going to be able to play through it. I reckon we change the rules, Kaes. We play 3 buys.
All right, let's do it.
I can't go 4 weeks without fantasy. It sucks. But anyway.
Like
Luke
you're doing
Jackson.
so well in, classic.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to go backwards in that too. So, yeah, no good. Brennan Cox, 90 points on Van Rooyen, 12 marks, probably a tip of the cap there. Although he did have those 2 monster scores early. Do you reckon he's someone worth just owning as a streamer?
I think he's one of those guys with my, math, science, formula kind of stuff
that you love.
When they take marks, they score well. That's what it comes down to. Like, he's one of those players. He's like a Tom Barras. When they take 10 marks, they're going to get you a 90.
Yep, that's right. Because they pretty much guaranteed 60 points.
Correct.
But anyway, moving on to the next game, it was GWS versus Geelong. Kieran Briggs, did you see this one coming? I didn't see Matt Flynn getting dropped at all.
I know, neither did I.
Yeah, and then he just gets dropped one week, and I thought he was rested. That's what the commentators were telling me.
Yeah.
He's playing 2s.
That's what I thought.
And Kieran Briggs is just racking up tons in the 1s. So he's just thriving as number 1 ruck.
The thing is, like, I'll check. I don't think he's like his scores were that massive in the VFL. Oh, no, he was averaging 111.
Yeah.
So, but that's
par
part of the course for AFL quality ruckman.
I think it's just one of those things where it felt like they were trying to develop Kieran Briggs into like a key defender for years.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, all their rucks get injured. So in the 2s, they have to play him as a ruck. And they're like, holy shit, this guy can ruck. It's like,
he was initially a ruckman as a kid, though, right?
Yeah. And he was a good fantasy scorer. I remember picking up in his first year.
Yeah, that's right.
He was the best ruckman in his draft year.
Yep.
I don't think it was a super strong draft year. I can't remember. But yeah, a good fantasy ruckman in his draft year. And now he's doing it in the 1. So I don't know why don't they just draft more players and play him in the position that they were brought up playing. But I don't know. I'm not an AFL coach.
You're not a recruiter.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a list manager, so don't ask me. Brent Daniels, your boy, 100 points, 3 goals, 2 weeks in a row.
He's so good at football.
He's building. Do you reckon he could be a 2G, 4P candidate if he keeps going?
Totally.
We said he'd never get there.
Average is 73.5. This is something that I would, I could see this coming at the start of the year. Like, he missed all of last year, basically, footy-wise.
Yeah.
And he was just starting to hit his straps at the end of 2021. Yeah, I'm excited about what Brent Daniels can do in the future.
How old is he?
Not that old, 25 maybe.
Yeah, right. So he should be, coming into his prime. It was pretty funny last week. There was a joke in the group chat, but yeah.
24.
O'Halloran was standing on the mark and the umpire kept saying, Brent, come back. Brent, come back. And O'Halloran was just standing there, like, just not moving. And then he got a 50 paid against him because, even the umpires don't know who half these GWS players are. But I thought it was pretty funny. Just poor Xavier O'Halloran just standing there copping a 50 against because umpire didn't know his name. Anyway.
God.
Josh Fahey. Is that how you say it?
Fahey.
I've heard people say Fahey. Fahey. It's Josh Fahey, isn't it?
I'd say Fahey.
Fahey. Is that right?
That's how I'm saying it.
All right, cool.
But you know that I always get him wrong. So
yeah, true. Well, I haven't heard his name really. They said Fahey.
He only played like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
game.
I didn't really hear his name called, but just good to see him get a run. So monitor that because it's not, if you're a classic player, it's not going to dent his price. But if you're a keeper league owner, he's someone you've had your eye on for a while, who's a good fantasy scorer in the 2s. So yeah, let's move on to the slippery game up in the top end. That was Gold Coast versus Western Bulldogs. So this game, essentially, the conditions were just slippery as they were training with like wet, soapy footballs and things like that to actually kind of get used to it. So that's the kind of game we expected. But it suited some players, like Nick Holman, for example, just tackled all day. Conditions suited him, but I think he's a tip of the cap. A player that really stood out was Bailey Humphrey, though, and he's been quite good for the last few weeks anyway. But he was on fire early, and then I think he ended up kicking one of the goals to seal it later in the game as well. So he just looks like he's going to be a gun. Had 72 points in this game, which isn't huge, but yeah, absolute superstar in the making.
He looked really good, and that goal was class as well.
Absolutely. Just a bit of a role change to flag. I'm not sure if this was the first week it happened, but Joel Jeffrey was on the halfback flank, and the role actually looked fantasy friendly, especially given that like all outside players sucked in this game. But he was getting kick-ins and stuff like that, and kind of playing that halfback flank role. Scored 60 points again in a game that didn't look fruitful. So not too bad. One to watch, maybe when they get out of Darwin, because I think they're playing there again this week, so it might be a bit slippery again. Another thing to note was Ben Ainsworth was on the wing for a lot of the game. Mm-hmm. Now, this is interesting. So, Fiorini and Atkins sucked, essentially.
Yep.
I think Fiorini basically was on the wing, Atkins in defence, kind of pushing up the ground a bit. But, yeah, Weller and Ellis come back in. So
they dropped Ellis. Ellis played VFL on the weekend.
Yeah, but he played really well.
Yeah.
So, he's probably going to come back in. And Weller's getting pretty close to return, I think, as well. So it's just going to be interesting what happens to your Fiorini's, I don't think Ainsworth continues on the wing. So that's my point is don't get too excited about that.
No.
And then what's going to happen with your Rat? And he's very highly owned around the place. I picked him up in our mid-season draft. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, not super.
They've got some good guys playing some good footy in the twos as well. So
yep. So just kind of keep your eye on how things are going to change at the Gold Coast Suns. But moving on to the Western Bulldogs, Jamara Ugle-Hagan was on fire. He scored 87 points, 3 goals, 9 marks. Do you think he's starting to live up to that hype?
The last couple of weeks that I've seen bits of the Dogs games, he's looked really good. Just looking confident, and I think just physically ready now. Like, last couple of years he's kind of looked just that little bit skinny, a little bit not ready for AFL footy, but at the moment he's just looking like he's got confidence, and, once those forwards have a bit of confidence behind them, that's when they start to score well, kick lots of goals. You almost see the flip side with, Harry Mackay at the moment, who's down on form, can't find the goals. His scores are, hurting, and he's not playing with that confidence. And, on the flip side,
when you look at like
Jamara's doing great.
When you look at like the best key forward fantasy scorer, it's probably Jeremy Cameron, yeah?
Yep.
Does he get to that level ever in his career?
I think he's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And it will come. But
might take some time.
But Cameron's never been a massive scorer either.
True.
Like, he's been a pretty consistent, especially last year
or
last few years since he's got to
talent. Like, I see Jamara being able to like snap goals, but also if he gets a bit more confidence, just going back and like slotting them there's nothing. He's got the ability to take a grab because he's that athletic type.
Yep.
Like, potentially when he hits like that, it might take another 5-6 years till he hits that 27 fully develops into his frame and stuff like that. Yep. But yeah, it's going to be a long hold.
He's tracking really well.
Yeah,
he's tracking really well.
Yeah. Shannon Hearn moving on to Essendon versus West Coast. Shannon Hearn, he's back this week. His value might have dropped just given being injured and stuff like that, but he's just a player that you just need to get if you are in contention for a flag. 109 points, takes all the kick-ins. I think he had another, I think it was 12 kick-ins. I can't remember. Just trying to think of the stats off the top of my head after scraping them last night. But it was a massive number of kick-ins again. So that was just, points galore there. But I think the massive thing is we need to... 8 kick-ins this week. I think the thing that we need to think about, though, is the potential retirement game in grand final week.
Yep.
Just kind of letting him do what he wants in that final week of playing. The issue is, does it come at the end of the season, or does it come, after it's just, they're completely done, or does it come after his next injury, whenever that is? Like, that's the thing. Do they play away or home in the last? Do they play away or home in the last round? Because that's usually a big factor there.
Round 24.
Yeah, is it the Optus or
Eagles play the Crows at home
at Optus? So that's good because if they played away, they might retire him the week before he doesn't make the trip. So
correct.
Yeah, not a bad one. Not a bad shout. Try to get him in steak knives in a deal. Because you get him a lot cheaper than his average suggests, that's for sure. Moving on to elite ruckman, Bailey Williams.
Yes, he is.
85. Handy in the ruck. Is Nick Nat coming? Haven't really been following. Is Nick Nat coming back at all this year?
No idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely no idea. Because he gets close and then he gets injured. And his body's cooked.
I just don't see the point either. Just let Bailey Williams just keep developing. Just retire Nick Nat.
Is he averaging 75 this year?
Yeah. That's I think that recently, there was just some tough games where he came up against really good ruckman, but I think the last few games he's really hitting his straps as well from memory.
He just looks like a likely type fantasy-wise too.
Yeah.
Like watching him go about it. Yeah.
He can move around. Yep. And he can take a grab too. Onto your Bomber boys. Ben Hobbs, 94 points. I don't think we've seen a real big ceiling from him yet, but what I like about him is he's showing consistency.
Yep.
Are you concerned at all if your boys had their midfield fully rolling, fit, ready, getting Shield back, getting Setterfield back, getting all those guys back? Do you think you could see a dip going forward in his scoring?
Well, obviously Parrish is the big one.
Parrish too,
Depends what their kind of mantra is, and where we're at for the rest of the year. Because I think if they're pushing for finals, they're going to be wanting Shield back in there.
You're in the 8 at the moment, aren't you?
We are.
Yeah, 8th.
So if they can, because they've got so many I think the same, like Caldwell, Perkins and Hobbs are like the same level to me in terms of where they're at kind of developmentally, and they can all play the same position, they can all play a bit of forward, they can all go in the midfield a bit.
They rotate,
Yeah, so it's like, what does Essendon want to do with all of that going forward? And, but you're saying that, like, how often is a side completely fully fit?
That's true.
And it's just going to be who kind of takes the opportunity when it gets to them.
Well, speaking of being fully fit, Dyson Heppel, 93 points, and he's had 3 90-plus scores in a row. Is he one worth considering if you're contending?
I'm not convinced.
Yeah, no, you're quite bullish on him getting dropped at some stage.
Well, he's at times he's looked a bit slow.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, he's scoring well recently.
Yeah.
He just seems to be a sure head back there. Like, just seems to settle things. Like in that game last week against Richmond, I felt like he was just kind of cool, calm, collected, when things
and that's where you need him doing his best work. But I don't know. I'm still not convinced.
Yeah, I'm not chasing him hard, but might be one to think about if you need a guy who can average 80 from here on. He should go close to that, I reckon. So maybe high 70s, but yeah. Archie Perkins, 83 points. I guess it's the same mould as Hobbs.
Similar. I think Hobbs has kind of leapfrogged him a bit. But I think
fantasy-wise, for sure.
I think what Perkins can do in front of goals a lot more impressive than what Hobbs can do. He's kind of got that bit more X factor.
Yeah.
Hobbs is a bit more of that grunt kind of player. So, look, Perkins might just end up being like that kind of Toby Green type.
Ooh, I would not complain with that.
Who just kind of averages 85.
Yeah.
And that's great. But, but that's because he's kind of got that, he's got that pinch hit in the middle.
Yeah.
That kind of thing about him.
Moving on to the Sunday games, Nathan Broad had 102 points. He's a bit of a tease at times, isn't he? But pretty much a tip of the cap, you reckon?
No Vlaston. Broad goes big. That's how it goes.
Yep, exactly. So I didn't even think of that, so that's a very good point. Moving on to Port Adelaide, Scott Lycett had 100 points. It was like...
Flag Adelaide.
The first Flag Adelaide. Port Flag Adelaide.
Whatever. Have you missed that?
I'm not going there just yet because we've seen the same as we've seen in 2020, in 2021.
Just a little update for everyone listening at home. Heff's back on the Ken bandwagon. That's what's been coming through the text messages.
And I think my position hasn't changed. Does his game plan stack up in finals? That's the question. Can't judge it till we get there because it hasn't in the past.
Go the power. Anyway,
I'm happy though. Like I'm happy we're winning. That's for sure. So I'm back. I've been going every game. Like I know, not like some people. Just been boycotting.
Yeah, your mates are a bit iffy.
Still been going. I'm taking my son. Hopefully, my son's got to choose between a 5th birthday or going to the footy this weekend.
Who are you playing?
Hawthorn. I've told him we're going to smash him, but we might not now. But he loves going when there's like a big score kicked. He loves seeing teams score over 100. That's the thing.
What's on offer at his 5th birthday?
Just the usual, like party food, cake, that sort of stuff.
But like, is it like at a bouncy centre?
No, I think it's just at a house. But early signs are he's leaning towards the footy. So yeah, it's big signs.
How many hot chips and stuff are you going to buy him?
Yeah, I do need to bribe him to get him through. The ice cream is a big factor. Ice cream at 3/4 time really gets him through. But yeah, so look.
Jeez, I might come.
Just saying. He's at the moment the footy's winning out over a 5th birthday. I think that's a pretty big deal.
Wow.
In my fatherhood kind of journey.
You're so proud, I can tell.
I'm very proud. Let's move on. Oh, sorry. So Scott Lycett. Yes, we didn't really talk about him. So 24 tackles. 24 hit outs, but also got his tackle game going. I think he had 4 or 5 tackles in there as well, which is what he did in those years where he averaged 80. He was getting quite a few tackles after those stoppages and things like that. He's just a watch for mine because his value's at an all-time low, and he can be the type of player who could average 80 from here on, type thing.
I feel that he lifted himself with this game, like he knew he had an ank, and he kind of came to play.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think we've seen that earlier in the year when he was inside. I think he kind of really set himself for this game and played really well. But can he consistently do it? It's the big question for me.
Just a watch. And remember that stream your ruckman against Port because they generally score pretty well. So get on. I don't know. Will that be true for Reeves and Meek this week though?
Definitely not.
On to the Collingwood game. Didn't actually see a second of this game, so forgive me if my takes are a bit wrong on this one. But Braden Maynard had 87 points. I didn't. Yeah, like I said, didn't see this game, but the week that I bench him, he puts up a decent score. So I don't know. I can't trust Maynard at the moment. Though.
Definitely not.
His roles keep changing each week, and whether he gets kicks or not, is dependent on who they're playing. Don't know who they've got this week, but still wouldn't be trusting him. That's all. But yeah, moving on to North Melbourne, Hugh Greenwood. He had 118 points. Is he an option, Kaes?
I've only seen this one good game.
Yeah.
So I've been playing a little bit of draft stars and stuff like that randomly. Yep. And I've always been tempted with Hugh Greenwood. And the one week I didn't take him, he played and scored 100. So he's always scored cheaply, but I think their midfield mix at North is a bit off. They've dropped Cunnington. So he's been playing LDU's out. So now that Greenwood's got that spot where he was kind of playing before when those guys were around the mark, and they're kind of full up of big body guys in the midfield, so he was kind of playing a bit more of a role or up forward. So now that if Cunnington still stays in the twos and we've still got a few weeks without LDU, I reckon he's a chance. And they're playing the Dons this week, so I reckon there's a chance that they put him in the midfield and try and take on our midfield. Yep,
no, fair enough. Let's move on to Bailey Scott. So he had 101 points. I just didn't see this game coming. Or I haven't seen this scoring coming because he scored, I think, 81, 121, and 101 in the last 3 weeks. Again, I just don't know what's going on with him because I kind of watched the game loosely last week and it kind of just seemed like he was playing a normal outside game. But he had the junk icon next to his name on fan footy as well, so he must have got a few kick around.
I watched the first half of this game and I honestly didn't notice him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like I watched him the week before when he had 121 and barely noticed him. The only reason I actually noticed him is because my opponent had him and he buried me with him. So, yeah.
Love that.
So Bailey Scott, you can't ignore him, so just pick him up if he's available in your waiver wires. I think he's pretty lowly owned out there as well.
He would be.
Will Phillips, 90 points.
Yeah.
17 CBAs, just getting that bump with LDU out.
He looked like serviceable. Even just a bit, his body looked a bit more ready. Like he's kind of looked a bit small, the last couple of years, but he didn't look out of place in the bit that I saw on the weekend. Yeah.
Does Cunnington ever make it back into the side? And does it?
Honestly, I'm thinking that. Like I've drafted him in a couple, single season leagues and stuff, thinking like you did in our home league.
For him. I traded Bailey Scott for him actually.
Wow, that's backfired.
Yeah.
But
all my trades have this year.
Just kind of looking at that and going, I'm not too sure if he does. I'd love to see him back, but I just don't think he's playing his best footy. Maybe he just needs a bit more time. And
even if he does come back, he's not going to be fantasy relevant. That's the thing.
That's probably the thing, and he's probably going to lose that forward status next year too.
He's gone, unfortunately.
I'm not writing you off, Ben, because you look scary.
If you're listening to this, we love you. Please don't bash us. Apparently he's a big teddy bear. Remember when we had Trent Dumont on?
That's what Froggy did say.
And he said that he was actually a really nice guy.
I hope that's true, otherwise he's going to kill you.
Nick Larkey, 88 points, 5 goals, just the tip of the cap. Most targeted man in the AFL, I think, and still
he's
can't
kicking a lot of goals, isn't he?
Oh, he should, but like I said, 5 goals and still doesn't turn up. It's not great.
You don't want that, but you play for North Melbourne.
That's true. Jaden Stevenson, 87 points. He finally had a good fantasy game, but he's not getting. He doesn't have a fantasy friend. He needs to be playing on a halfback flank or a wing to be good, and he plays at forward these days.
Yeah, I'm not interested here.
Yeah, not interested in Jaden Stevenson whatsoever. I think he might be interested in the next guy, Ben Kaes, 109 points. Tagged Neil in the first half, but then just plain mid in the second half. Didn't really kind of continue that role.
The Messiah has returned.
Do you think this continues going forward?
Can you move that camera so you can really get Ben in the background?
No, I've purposely got him out of the shot. There he is.
From what I saw of that Crows game, he was in the midfield, and that's what made me very, very happy.
Does it continue, though?
No idea.
Matthew Nicks. That's their coach, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I was going to say Stevie Nicks, but that's the singer for Fleetwood Mac, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Anyway, Matthew Nicks said today that they decided to move him in there because there were a few players that they felt like needed a rest, and this will be an ongoing situation. So he will rotate in and out as needed, apparently.
It's no denying that. Kaes plays midfield, Crows win.
Gold Coast, scrappy game, wet, tackles galore. Do you think Ben Kaes has another good week?
Another week where it would have been nice to be playing through the buys.
Exactly. You really shot yourself in the foot here.
I have to find like a gold Ben Kaes now on game day squad.
And the last one for the Crows I've got here is Wayne Millerer. So, I reckon it's just, he had 84 points, I think it was, and he's had a good month, 63, 85, 77, and 84. Patrols at half back and kind of just just settles things down. And he's a very skillful player, so they use him to kind of pinpoint targets and things like that back there. He's got forward status too. I don't know, if you're a Miller owner, you'd be pretty happy with the way things are going right now, yeah?
I think it's great to see him finally get that ability to play back. You know, like he's always been a classy mover, classy user. He's just had so many injury issues. So finally good to see him actually just, you know, finally fit in at AFL level again. So I think he's one of those guys almost like similar to Hugo Hagen. Once you get that confidence, I think he can kind of go to the next level. So I'd be happy to get a little slice of Miller now that he's finally hit that level that we know he can.
And not a lot to talk about for the Brisbane Lions. Most of them are too good for the podcast. Did notice Zach Bailey had his highest number of CBAs for the season, though, and that resulted in a score of 94 points. So just one to look at if there's anything happening there in terms of the CBA trends. But yeah, just one to flag there.
I like Zach Bailey a lot.
I know, you own him. All right, we'll get into the membership stuff in a minute where we'll talk about some of the stuff we have on offer, which includes State League fantasy scores. But, Kaes, you track the State League
week in, week out.
So you check out the articles on the website.
Week in, week out.
What are your takes at the moment with some of the players playing the State League?
Well, I know that you do your waiver wire podcast, Heff, and you go through all the guys who've been playing AFL, but I think there's a lot of value in the State Leagues around, and especially when some clubs are at crossroads or if you're coming into some injuries and stuff like that. Kind of going through a couple of them that maybe you should start looking at if you can, if they do get that chance. Like guys like Dev Robinson and Jared Lyons, they're absolutely putting up huge numbers in the VFL for the Lions. Dev Robber had 21 tackles.
21 tackles?
21 tackles on the weekend.
Whoa.
Like no surprise, Charlie Constable's absolutely picking it up. Sam Flanders as well. Marcus Windhager must be close to a game back at the Saints. He's had a couple hundreds back
Surely
to back
with the way they're travelling.
Angus Sheldrick from the Swans. He's put up a couple 100s in his last game.
He never plays the same role at AFL level.
He doesn't, but I think it's really good. You know, like this is one of these points. This is almost that time of the year where you can maybe get a couple guys cheap.
True.
If you're sitting, 3 and 8 in the league and you're going
things as well.
So that could be one. But if you're looking at the Blues, especially with their injuries that they got this week. Alex Chincotta's played some really good footy after being dropped, so he's around the mark.
Coaches would love it if he came back.
Doss's boy, where he is, Paddy Dow. He's been picking it up. I think the one that you need to be getting involved in from a keeper league point of view and a variety we shall not mention. Jackson Binns is a name that many people might not know. But
he's that outside player that they probably need.
Correct. Carlton. He's averaging 109 this season. What's he got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tons, including a 123 and a 138. So he's a guy who should be on your radar.
Maybe my boy, who did I say before for Carlton, the other winger who's listed as a forward, and I've forgotten his name now.
Cottrell.
Yeah, Matthew Cottrell. Maybe he's not the guy. Maybe Jackson Binns is the guy.
Jackson Binns is the one you should be looking at. Obviously, Josh Fahey, we know how good he's been going. He's
hopefully
been an absolute
this week.
Star of mine in a while. And if you want to go a bit more left field, Harry Schomburg's playing some good footy.
Had to bring him in.
He got to. And so is Liam Henry and Neil Erasmus. So there are a couple of guys that you can look at if you are kind of, fluttering on being irrelevant this season and try and chalk up your stocks for next year.
I think that was actually one of the listener questions that was asking something about some younger players or less known players to bring in that might get chances later. So there's the questions.
But I think this week it's Binns.
Hopefully Binns comes in. I'd love to see that. All right. So that's some of the State League numbers. But on our website, we've got, those State League scores. We've got CBA numbers, CBA analysis, kick-in numbers and analysis. And we've also got the breakout tracker. So if you want to get access to all of that stuff, please become a member, support the show financially so we can keep it going week in, week out. Each week we read out some gold members' names. So thank you to Daniel Wake, Daniel Nesbitt, Jared Buskell, Luke Farrows, Lewis O'Day, Darcy Coleman, Shane Crick, David Whitehouse, Dave McGill, and Luke Farrows. Okay, it's the time of the week that everyone loves to listen to, and that is the listener questions. So, first one comes from @MajorBamBam. James Harms, is he worth a play without Oliver? I think he scored in the 70s on the weekend.
Yeah,
listed as a forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he is.
But if Oliver comes back this week, then
obviously that hurts his ability. But he's He hasn't really played the position he should have lately.
Yeah.
Which hurts.
He is that jack of all trades as well, which kind of sucks for him because, he's just as likely to get thrown up forward or in a back pocket or something like that. So,
he had 70-70 and he played 64% tog on the weekend.
Yeah.
So, his points per minute is pretty good. It's just, whether he gets that run at it. I think Essendon were interested in him in the preseason.
Yeah.
I think he probably should have gone if he had his time again.
Yeah. If Oliver's out, I just don't know how. Oliver might only miss one more max type thing. So it's probably an irrelevant question now, given the news that we've got this afternoon that Oliver trained today. But yeah, if he is out for a longer time, then he's worth considering because he steps into those inside roles. Was he a crim? It asks. He must be a 12th man fan, I reckon, with a username like that. Currently contending, but also holding what will likely be pick 2 in next year's draft. Should I be looking to sell out picks and youth to bolster my midfield for a premiership run, or hold on to make a play for Reed? Taking Callahan and Wardland in recent drafts, and the future's looking okay. I don't think you get Reed unless you got pick 1, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah, so it's probably... I don't know. I'd do it. If you haven't won a flag before and you think you might not have a chance going forward, and fantasy's crazy because who knows where your team is after 1 year.
Yep.
Look at Kaes. You were top by a mile last year, didn't win it, now you're sitting 5th.
Just stalking for a premiership this year.
Yeah. So who knows actually what happens. But yeah, I would be happy to trade out a pick 2. I'm actually trying to get rid of, in a dynasty league, I'm actually trying to get rid of my first rounder for next season for a decent ruckman. Here's a question. This comes from a guy called Heff. Would you give up pick 1 in a dynasty league where you keep basically 34 players each year? Would you give up your first round draft, and you're sitting top, so it's the end of first round draft pick.
Okay.
Would you give up your first round draft pick for Darcy Cameron so you have a ruck? And you're top and you haven't lost a game. I'm thinking I might.
Is Darcy Cameron that good though? That's my question.
I could get better. That's the thing. But I just need my ruckman at the moment rotates between Segler, Pitnet, and one of the Hawthorn too.
Wow, that's scum.
Yeah. But every other my line is stacked. I just need that ruckman to basically put it in the bag.
Who went pick 1 this year, or first round this year?
Ashcroft and then Sheasel. I think Ashcroft Humphrey went second in our league, but the guy who took him just doesn't know who they are. And I think Sheasel went 3rd, I think it was. So they're the type of players.
But the back end.
Oh, back end.
So say you win the flag or come second, who's likely going to be around? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Probably the equivalents of who was there for me, Ed Allen and things like that. So guys that aren't even actually playing.
Yeah, why not? What do you got to lose?
Yeah, that's the thing. My first round was a back end. I took Ed Richards. Okay. Because no one picked him up. Because in dynasties, everyone just goes for your youth.
Yeah.
And he was still sitting there from last year, so I took Ed Richards. So there's someone potentially like that you could take. But that's pretty much a Darcy Cameron equivalent when you're contending, I think. So,
it is.
Yeah.
It's playing ruck roulette's the worst as well.
Yeah, I know. So at least I just get one that plays each week. Anyway, Brad, if you're listening, I might do that trade with you. Ranger J87, our league kicked up a stink this week over a trade, Holmes, Humphrey, and the first redraft pick for Cogs and Treloar, citing it was not an even trade, which resulted in a reversal. Was their reason justified? I think it's a fine trade.
First redraft pick.
Yeah, it obviously depends on how many you keep, and all that sort of stuff. But it's Holmes, Humphrey, and a first round draft pick for Coles and Treloar. It's the type of trade you make if you're contending.
It is.
I'm fine with that. This is the trade I made in the preseason. It was Holmes and Chad Warner. I traded out for Cornelio, Tom Mitchell, and Viney. So it's a pretty similar trade to what I did. And that didn't get vetoed. So I don't know.
So Treloar and Cornelio kind of average combined 197.
Yeah.
And what was Holmes is 78.
Yeah, 80.
And Humphrey's probably 56.
Way below. But it doesn't matter because you're going for the future anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine. I reckon it's fine. I reckon your league's stuffed up there. We've never vetoed a trade in our league, I don't think, no matter how. Maybe one, actually.
I don't think we have, but also I think that no one's going to really set their team on fire either.
Yeah.
We've had some trades, if you look at those ones that, I don't know who did them with Zanks back in the day where, he traded out a good player at the time, blah, 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 for
Yeah, he really went hard on the rebuild type
Clayton
thing.
Oliver and someone, and then that's obviously turned out to be a genius stroke. And the other guy didn't win a flag anyway. So like
Holmes and Humphrey could be better than Cogs and Trelaw. I'm not sure what the issue is here. Like the first round draft pick? I think that's how trades just happen in keeper leagues. I don't know. I'm fine with that trade. So yeah,
if Heff's fine with the trade, it must be good because Heff hates trading.
Yeah, well, long term it's fine. Either way, it's fine. The person gets the instant score hit. The other person gets the future sewn up, especially with Holmes injured now, and Humphrey won't get a good fantasy scorer for a while, like a consistent one anyway. Yeah. All right, so at Arnhem Mikey, I'm in need of F3 in redraft. Keen on Tom Sparrow. He's averaged 55 CBAs over the past 4 weeks with an average of 81. Would you trade a bench midfielder like him for Warple? Like Warple for him, sorry.
I don't think I'd trade Warple for him.
So you wouldn't...
But if he's not playing on your field, he's averaging 85. He's probably around the mark.
Yeah, I don't think that's the worst trade. Like, how is Warple, like, with all those younger, like, midfielders, you've got Newcombe, Will Day, and you've got Connor Nash.
Yeah, because unfortunately Warple just can't kick the footy properly, so that's his issue.
I'd take Thompson. I'd take a punt. That's a
for an F3.
I reckon that's even, to be honest. That's a pretty even trade.
Yeah. He like, worst case, Sparrow gets here 65.
Yeah.
Which is fine for
best case, he gets traded and becomes a gun. He could be next year's Will Day. You know what I mean? Like, just could get a better role. So, not get traded, but could get a better role somewhere.
Yep.
And be a good player. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm fine with that. That's worth a punt, I reckon. I'm a Warple owner, and I would go close to doing that trade.
There you go.
Yeah.
Heff's doing trades left, right, and centre tonight. Must be a full moon or something like that.
Oh, it's just, with my midfield depth, I don't really need Warple. I'd take the punt with the forward status. Matt Roach, thoughts on Dow after some really good VFL scores and Carlton being poo? We've seen Dow come in so many times, and he just doesn't do anything.
That's my biggest issue.
Yeah. Like, we've seen him go nuts in the VFL week on, week out. He comes in and does nothing.
It's not that he can't score. He can score, but he just doesn't do it at AFL level.
Yeah. It's just a VFL player. That's the thing. Should have got traded.
And I think that the other issue is that, like, to an extent, I get excited about state league numbers for younger kids or kids who haven't seen quite the potential or they're building.
Yeah.
And that's a good basis to kind of look at them.
Yeah.
But Dow puts up those numbers for so long, and they never have equated to a good score.
Nah.
Because he's not that same player. Because he's too good. He's probably on that borderline of being too good for VFL, but not good enough for AFL.
But he's like fifth in the pecking order at Carlton too. So it's like,
like, even if he comes to that side and takes George Hewitt's spot, for example, he's still not going to get more pill over Cripps, Walsh.
Yeah, and what's Hewitt even been scoring this year?
Bugger all this year.
And then
80?
it's like you're a lesser version of him as well. So, it doesn't matter. Nah, I'm not on Paddy Dow at all. Don't bother with him.
Sorry, Paddy.
Paul Milne is asking, Kaes equals legend? Oh, thanks, Milne. You never say that about me. But anyway, he wants to know, do you sell high on Keys or ride the wave?
Surely no one wants any of Keys, do they?
I don't know. Yeah, you'd have to ride it, I think. I think this week's going to be big as well. So you might be able to wait another week and, he might be worth even more.
Keys, now with forward status, could kind of be, if this role comes in and out and we're not going to know when, he could be one of the ultimate loopholers.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because he could be 105 or it could be a 40.
Yep. I do own him in a league, and I actually had him on field this week because I had Mitch Owens and someone else get injured during the week.
Yep.
So, and I was not upset. So, I'd ride for now. Josh Gallo, Jai Amos, do you think he has some promise?
I do think he has promise. I think he's still pretty young. He just got the Rising Star nomination this week. He's got promise, but I think that he's going to be one of those forwards, like almost like a, I don't know, Gunston type or someone like that, who's not necessarily huge, key forward, but a handy medium. And they need a bit of time to develop.
I'll just go back to trends and data and just look at what every key forward averages in the AFL and look at your top 10. And he'll be probably somewhere in that.
It's 196.
But it probably won't be good enough to be consistently a good fantasy scorer. That's all. Be up and down most weeks, just like all the others. Mitchell Swan is asking, I think you'll like this question, Kaes. Do you think 35% is too low for dual positions being added? Ultimate Footy used 70%. I don't know if that's particularly true, but not sure I like 35%.
Yep.
Also keen on your views of the new AFL platform versus the old old fantasy. Anyway, let's do the first thing first. 35%, too high, too low, about right?
I think it is too low.
Yeah. What would you say, like 40%?
Well, McRae just scraped in, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a stretch, really.
Yeah. How close was it? I didn't see the numbers.
I don't know. I think he just scraped in. But like, if you're going, I don't know if Ultimate Footy always lived by this rule, but it was like, if you were happy to say so-and-so is a X, then they should get it.
Yeah.
Like, Jack McRae, the forward, doesn't actually sit with me.
But that's not that as well. Ultimate Footy missed a lot that had changed.
Sure.
As well. And yeah.
But like, for me, like, if you said to me at the start of the year that Taranto, Cornelio, Butters, Rosie aren't forwards, I'd be like, well, that's okay. I can cop that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it comes from the classic world that everyone's a bit precious about, you got to have your primos and all this kind of bullshit that comes from classic. Like, if from my point of view as a draft keeper league kind of player, if you said, nah, they're not having forward status, I'd be like, all right, well, that's cool, because that means I can go deeper into finding key forwards become more relevant, like small forwards become more relevant, whereas now you're just looking for the guy who plays midfield.
On top of that, that said though, like, I'll go back to my point I made earlier. If you look at the top 20 forwards, for example,
that's always each year.
But only 17 of them are actual forwards. But like, my point is, if we're to take them out, if we're to raise that, because they're the guys who probably just hit 35%, if you were to take that, are you going to be able to field 5 forwards? Like, in a game, like, they're going to be 5 guys playing each week. Like,
but I think that obviously there are, because there's 6 forwards listed in a team.
Yeah, but they all kind of, I don't know. Like, yeah, obviously you probably can, but the thing is, like, I don't know about that.
But no, but that, all right. So if you look at say Jai
the quality of the game is going to go way down.
Well, it's not really. It's just you got to actually find forwards.
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying Jai Amiss has played 10 games this year, he's averaging 50. He might be an F4 or 5 or 3 even.
Do we want that though?
But why don't we? It's just you're just changing the parameter.
I think you've got so many midfielders that you won't be able to fit in as well.
I think we've just become accustomed to 100 being like a good score.
Yeah.
When potentially, like, if you started the game from scratch again, 50 could be a good score.
I don't know.
If you're playing your big leagues and your dynasty leagues and stuff, that's effectively what's happening.
I think it's about right. What I think would be good, probably pretty shit, but would be maybe take positions away if they don't meet it. Like, perhaps, I don't know. Would that cause too much chaos?
So like, Zach Butters loses for his status.
Tim Taranto goes. Like,
I think that would cause. I think
it would fuck teams up so much. Like, but.
I'd also be down for no changes during the year.
Yeah, but then raise the percentages at the start.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind. I don't know. As long as it's consistent, I don't really care what happens. As long as everyone's playing by the same rules, like, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever those rules are.
Anyway, whoever's listening in the power speed, I'll be all for anyone who's basically midfielder to not have forward or back status.
The other question is also keen on your views for the new AFL platform versus the old Ultimate Footy.
The new platform stinks.
I like the app and the usability of the app so much. So much more than having to log into Ultimate Footy, like, navigate to it. I love the way how easy it is to set your lineups, like bring people off the bench, not having to scroll all the way to the bottom. I just wish it had all the customizations that Ultimate Footy had. That's all.
From a league commissioner's point of view, it's nowhere near as good.
Yeah.
I like the Ultimate Footy seemed a lot more stats based and easy to find stats and old stats and from years past. I love that bit. The thing that shits me the absolute most, so if you're listening, anyone powers to be at AFL Fantasy World, you've got to fix your fucking projections.
Yeah, they
like,
suck.
it just is. The game starts and you're down 300 points or 400
points. I kind
of
like the suspense to it though. Like, I kind of like that factor.
No, but it's dumb because I'm just like, well, I'm not going to check the scores until this game's finished. Like, it's just pointless.
It's kind of like, I just think, like, I look at the end of, like, the day, like, oh, I'm still projected to win, but then it's kind of like irrelevant once the first game starts.
As soon as you're 5 minutes into that game, you might have 5 players and I have 1.
Yeah.
And then you're projected to win and I've got to kind of do some maths. It's just
it adds an element of excitement to me.
It doesn't.
For me.
It's just not good enough.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
Like I said, recap. I like when you compare the app to the old and the site in general to Ultimate Footy, I reckon it beats it. But yeah, I just wish we had the same customizations, which I'm sure will come eventually. So yeah, we could argue about this.
And change your projection.
And fix your projections too for Kaes. All right, let's wrap it up. So get around us on our socials at Keeper League Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Make sure you get around Game Day Squad. They support the podcast, and yeah, it's a good fun game to play. Kaes and I both play it, so make sure you're competing against us in that.
Who's on the pod next week, Heff?
Don't know, actually. I need to kind of sort that out.
How much you have to pay Checkers to come on these days? He's like a genuine celebrity.
I try to pay him, he doesn't want it, so I don't know. He reckons he gets too much out of coming on here, which is a lie, but anyway. But yeah, he is a genuine celebrity. I might get Checkers on next week. I'll send him a text after this and see what he's doing. But yeah, he's doing a lot. I think I saw him, he was at the Adelaide Oval getting ready for the NRL game, wearing a Blues kit for some reason, doing something, laying turf, actually. Adelaide Oval today. So.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
The man is everywhere.
Yeah, he is. He works pretty hard. But yeah, get around Game Day Squad. Get around Marmalade Way at it. Why not? And yeah, get around our membership if you wish to support the podcast. You want to plug anything, Kaes? Anything with you?
No. Follow me on Twitter for more angry rants about umpires and the state of the game.
They are good fun. All right. Yep, that'll do it for this week. Thanks for listening in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Good pod. Good pod.